Heidi leads the Philadelphia chapter, and she has lots of great events happening over there. And today she's going to be talking about learning styles. I was talking about Heidi to someone else today, and I said, Heidi is like the nicer, better version of me. And so I'm sure we'll all enjoy this presentation. And I'll pass
That's
it over to
awesome.
you. Are you okay do you want people to interrupt you with questions? You want to put them
Sure.
in the chat and ask them at the end, or do you care?
Whatever you all are most comfortable with.
Cool.
Feel free to interrupt me. I like participation.
Sounds good.
Awesome.
Over to you.
So we're going to talk about learning styles and how to apply them in Dynamics 365 CE training. Thank you for inviting me, Kylie. I submitted this session at Dynamics Con and sadly just barely missed the cut. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about this. I have never before tried to spend the better part of an hour talking about this. I have no idea how long this is going to take. I hope I don't blow through this in 15 minutes, but I'm really excited to talk about this. So again, thank you. Kylie already introduced me, but I'm Heidi Neuhauser. I know a lot of you on the call, but for those of you who I don't know, I've been working in Microsoft CRM for 12 years now. We have 4 cats, one of whom you already met if you were on here earlier, a dog and a cockatiel, and I have 2 kids. So you might see some or all of those 9 individuals in the remaining 55 minutes that we have together. I'm also the chair of the Philadelphia user group, so you can come join us. My Torty's your favorite. Thanks, Mallory. I love her. Her name is Sushi. She's in the top right-hand corner picture there. I work at Reenhanced with my husband, Nick, who's in the picture there, and I'm a business applications MVP. So I thought I would start this out with Slido. Have you guys done Slido before? You can go to slido.com, and then you just enter these numbers, 884-938. And I know you all love to multitask. I saw Patrick doing it earlier. So if you want, you can scan the QR code or you can put that in here. And this is just kind of a word cloud. So if you could just take a minute to log in there, we'll just see them all pop up when you start to enter. But what do you think about learning styles? I had a fun little conversation on LinkedIn when Kylie was promoting this with somebody who thought they were bullshit, which is fine. If that's what you think about learning styles, you can pop it up here. They're important, visual, hands-on. I think learning styles are a fascinating thing to learn about. And I will go on. I will tell you a little bit more about that later. I'm just kind of checking out what some of these things are. Sorry, I keep looking over here at my multiple monitors. So hands-on, last-minute visual, they're important. I'm going to keep this open so you can keep adding things. Real, based on intelligence. Now, we're all intelligent people, so obviously you think they're real. Leveraged a lot when I was teaching. Oh, who was a teacher? That's cool. This will be fun. So actually, I'm going to tell you a little story before I dive into this of why I talk about learning styles, why I care about it, and why I'm talking to you about it today, why I think it's important enough for all of you to learn about. I had no idea what I wanted to be when I grew up, and I went to college, and my mom was a teacher, and I was like, great, mom has summers off, and that sounds really cool. I'm going to be an elementary education major. Clearly, that didn't pan out for me, but when you start as an elementary education major, you take all of these psychology classes and like education 101. And some of the things that I was introduced to in my first year of college were learning styles. And it kind of stuck with me. It was very interesting. Long story short, I clearly didn't become a teacher. I switched my major. I went somewhere else. But this kind of always stuck with me because it was like eye-opening. It was like, wow, that is interesting. And I think there's something to that because I learned differently than other people in my class. And from a very early point in my college career, I saw that if you differentiate the message that you're trying to deliver, more people understand it, which isn't terribly fascinating, but I just thought it was really interesting and thought-provoking. How about that? So today, we have such a diverse workforce. It's filled with people of all different ages, backgrounds, skills, comfort levels with technology. And it's important to remember one core fact, which is here. People learn differently and have different preferences. There are so many ways to think about adult learning styles. There's philosophies. There's just a ton of stuff out there. And like I said, I know some people think learning styles are complete BS, but I'm going to pretend that you buy into it because you're here. And even if you're skeptical, I think it's still really important to learn about something like this, because I think that this is good, solid information that you can apply to help differentiate how you're training your Dynamics 365, your CRM, and your Power Platform end users. So that's why we're talking about this. Learning styles are the means by which an individual can most optimally retain information. And there are lots of ways to think about it. So you've probably encountered them at some point. I know I have had to take a Myers-Briggs test at a prior job in kind of like the orientation time. So why is a company giving an employee a Myers-Briggs test or any of these other learning style tests? Is it just because they're trying to fill your time? Maybe orientation needs to take a full day. Let's stretch it out and give us this fun quiz. Possibly, but more likely they're trying to find something out about you. Are you an introvert? Are you an extrovert? Would you work well in a team? Would management be an interesting fit for you? Because all of these little things that we prefer tell you a little bit more about it. And I know someone said they were a teacher. I didn't see the chat who it was, but in education, teachers use learning skills all the time. They use all of the skills that they've learned about how people learn to differentiate their learning and ensuring that everybody can understand it in a way that makes sense to them. So when we're tasked with training our end users in the wonderful world of CRM and the Power Platform, we can enhance their user experience by considering how they might learn best. I'm going on tangents with this, sorry. I hope this is exciting for you. I hope you're all jazzed up. So meet VARK. Obviously, there's a lot of different learning style techniques out there. And I found VARK in a very complicated way. I Googled it. I was working for a company. I was the system administrator. I was having a hard time. I had 250 salespeople that I needed to teach about CRM, right? And these are like old school propane industry salespeople, not the easiest person to teach new technology to. So I remembered, hey, I learned this thing in college about learning styles, and maybe I could apply something like this in this scenario and it might help. So I did, and I found VARK, and I thought it was really simple to understand, and I thought it would be a nice way for me to frame how I would train other people. And it stuck with me ever since then. So that was like 10 years ago. So we're going to go with VARK because I like it. No other reason other than I like it, I've used it, I've applied it, and I've been successful with it. And I've taught other system admins this sort of a topic, and they've been successful thinking about it. So let's talk about VARK. It's an acronym, of course, and it stands for Visual, Aural, Reading and Writing, and Kinesthetic Learners. Now, in all these learning styles, no one's trying to say you fit into this one bucket, right? Like I'm not saying, Kylie, you are an oral learner, or Mike, you're reading and writing. Most people are going to see this and learn about this and resonate with one, two, maybe even more of these learning styles. But you'll probably have one primary learning style. So visual learners, I think the pictures kind of speak for themselves, but we'll walk through it quickly. Visual learners are going to learn best by seeing visual items like graphs and pictures. Oral listeners, that's all about hearing and speaking things. Reading and writing, those are your note takers. I have notepads all over my desk and pens, and I take notes all the time. So this is obviously one of my core things. And kinesthetic, these are people that are hands-on. So you can use VARK, or really any learning style methodology that you prefer, to enhance communication skills between you and your learners, between you and your fellow trainers if you have more than one person training, and also just to make sure that information reaches all of the people that you're teaching. So let's do a fun example to kind of illustrate this. You can read the word dog here in green. You can hear me speak the word dog. You can see this picture of my dog. Or if you can go pet a dog right now, I can't give you a kinesthetic experience of petting a dog. But that's 4 different ways for you to try to remember this dog. And like if you close your eyes right now How do you remember dog? Do you remember me saying the word? Do you remember seeing the picture of Iris? Do you remember viewing the word? Or if you had a dog, pet the dog. So that's just kind of a fun way to think about it. But we're not here for fun. We're here for Dynamics 365 and Power Platform. So what's like a real world example? So let's not talk philosophically. Let's talk about like real concrete training examples. So you have to teach your learners how to add a new opportunity in Dynamics 365. So talk with my hands a lot, which I'm really noticing. I'm watching this. That is a telltale sign of a kinesthetic learner. So let's start with visual learners. You might create a simple diagram or a flow chart. It says go to sales, get to the opportunity section, and then add new. That would be great for a visual learner. An oral learner, they would listen to you speak the words, or they would speak the words, and they would really like get a lot from spoken word. So navigate to sales, select the opportunity area, and then click the add new icon. And we've got our reading and writing learners. If you've ever seen any of my personal documentation that I create for our users or for customers, this is my favorite. I love this. I love lists. I love doing 1, 2, 3, 4 and screenshots. So this is a really slick, clean example that will feel really nice to your reading and writing learners. So you would give them 1, open Dynamics, 2, navigate to sales, 3, select opportunity, 4, click new, and here's a screenshot. So that's a great one. Then in our kinesthetic learners, well, if you can't get them on a computer to actually do it, you show them a live demo. So create a GIF here that walks it through it, or go up into Dynamics in the system itself and show them a real world example, not a hypothetical example. It needs to be a real world example that they can understand. So that's a quick overview on what all these different things are, what VARK is. So now that you've had a 5-minute overview on VARK, which learning style do you resonate with most? Just from hearing about it. This doesn't mean that that's all you are, but when you kind of learn about what these different types of learners do, which one do you think you are? And these are all anonymous. I don't think anyone would be embarrassed to be called out as certain learners, but it's really interesting. Myself personally, I am kinesthetic, but I also am extremely reading and writing because I love the list and the 1, 2, 3s. But I'm really a hands-on person. If I'm learning something new, I was trying to learn the BC connector today, as some of you might have seen on Twitter. And the first thing I did was spin up a demo environment, open up Power Automate, and I started building it just to see what it could do before I went to Microsoft Docs, before I went to Learn, before I did anything else. So that would be like telltale kinesthetic. This is really interesting. So almost half of you think you're visual learners. Nobody's oral. I don't understand the oral learners either. I do not retain information simply from hearing the spoken word. All right, so here, if you want, you know what, we should, because there's no way this is going to take me an hour. Let me copy this link and I'm going to put it in the chat. And since we're all on computers, you can click this. This is the VARK questionnaire. Now, I would never recommend you actually stopping a training for somebody and saying, here, take this questionnaire. Let's find out what you are, and then I'll teach you. But it could be an interesting exercise. It's easy. It'll take you 5 minutes to do. And I can keep rambling here. Maybe I could get the dog out and pet her for you all. But take a couple minutes and fill this out, and we'll see if what you think you are lines up with what this says. These are simple little questions. They're not the most exciting. They're not tailored to you as an employee in the workspace. There's things in there that clearly feel more like school related, but you can just answer it and see what it thinks. And as you do that, you will get results that look like this. I mean, they don't really look like this. I just copied and pasted different parts. But you'll take the questionnaire and it will let you know what your learning preference is. So mine came out as mild kinesthetic. You can see on the highlighted areas here, I had kinesthetic, and reading and writing was still pretty high. So both modalities would be important for me, which is why I get a lot out of all different types of training. The oral and visual are pretty low for me, which just means that is less likely to be my primary modes of learning. And it gives you strategies on the right, which is neat. So if you're interested in this and you want to dive in and learn more and start thinking about additional ways beyond the scope of what we talk about today, you can take that, and each one is going to give you a description. It'll tell you how people with this learning preference tend to take in information, how to present information to others. And then if you skip all the way to the bottom, there's this in the workplace thing. So like this kinesthetic one says, in the workplace, use role play to get your ideas across. Recall past examples in performance, all that stuff. Hey, Nick. My husband just popped on. I just saw his face pop up. Now I embarrassed you.
Hey.
So
Hello.
here's another Slido. This is our last Slido. But if you take the quiz, if you take a couple minutes, let us know what your results are. And I will just give you a couple minutes to wrap that up. I'm going to scroll up in the chat and see if anyone had any questions that I missed while you take that. Cool. I'm reading Jamie's comment back at 6:09, 10 minutes ago. I used to watch TV for a living. That's awesome. And I started training people to watch TV. Now I work at Microsoft. We use learning style assessments and theories to help create better training. Sweet. Kinesthetic. I have a kinesthetic kin on the call. That's cool. I love job aids. I love job aids too. So we're just taking a couple minutes in the beginning. I probably should have set the preface for this whole thing. So we're going to learn about VARK. We're going to understand these learning styles, see what everybody's results are, and then we're going to kind of switch gears and we're going to talk about what you can use to help train your users. And then if there's time at the end, which there will be time at the end, we still have 40 minutes. Then we're going to talk about how you can think about applying something like learning styles. So excited. Like VARK, and then take it to configuration. What? Learning styles and building our systems and apps. Crazy stuff, right? This is what happens when you give me an hour to talk about. Kylie, I think I got the opposite results that I would have thought. That's interesting, isn't it? This is so cool. Are you guys having fun with this, or is this just me?
I am, but I got down to the bottom, Heidi, as Patrick. And then I went back and read the directions that said, oh, you should choose more than one answer if it applies.
I probably should have told you that. Sorry.
Or I could have read the directions. Either one.
Yeah, it might show something that we didn't read the directions as.
Wait, what?
I didn't know that option until you said it.
It's select multiple?
Yeah.
If more than one is true, you can select more than one.
I think the direction said don't answer any of these questions and just sign your name and click OK. I don't know. Did anybody read that?
I didn't read the instructions. I just listened to what Heidi said. Click the link and I go to the thing.
And look, we're all in this technology space where we should have recognized these squares would indicate we could choose more than one. They're not radio buttons.
You know what? I was thinking that. I was like, this looks like a multi-select, but
That's awesome.
This shows that we're all getting the correct results of kinesthetic because we're all
Can
just
I get a couple
learning
more
and
minutes to
doing
redo it?
It certainly shows that you're not reading and writing. This is fun. All right, I'll move on. You guys are welcome to keep doing this. Love that there's so many kinesthetic learners. That's a lot higher than I thought.
The instruction says choose the answer, which best explains your preference.
It does. If there's more than one.
It's implying it wants you to select one.
Yeah,
You did it right.
A radio button would be select one, and the select checkbox would be select multiple. They have a multiple select on the test, and they're implying they wanted one. It's a poorly designed test. So Heidi is responsible for this erroneous exam.
So I will accept my result.
Right. We got some multimodal on there. That's fun. Anyone want to volunteer which 2 or 3 popped up on there?
Oh yeah, I can give you all that stuff. I got a visual 8, Aurora 5, reading write 8, and kinetic 10.
All right. Whoa, Jamie, you're like not at all reading and writing. You hate those lists that I put up. You're gonna really like the next PowerPoint.
I may have rushed through the end. It was a lot of questions, but I don't like reading, so that's probably why.
This is so cool. Thanks for playing along. You can keep editing that. We'll go back and look at what everybody was at the end because that's fun. So we're going to talk a little bit more about people that come out as each of these types. And those will be quick. So visual learners. So they're going to process information best when they can see it. And there were a lot of you that came up with high visual scores. Whoa, look at Jenna. She's like equally across everything except oral. That's fascinating. Sorry, I'm distracted by the chat now. All right, so visual learners, you process information best when you can see it. Things like graphs, flowcharts, and pictures are awesome, and you hate lists. So this slide is a super awesome slide for you because you're seeing a process visually, and that's really important for visual learners, which is a lot different than others. So now we'll move to oral learners. This is a throwback photo from Summit 2019, which is one of my last in-person events. Gosh, I miss it. Oral learners like to hear the information, so they prefer learning by oral and oral methods. So listening and speaking are both equally important for oral learners. So giving them the ability to have things like a group discussion where their voice is heard by others. Lectures, tutorials, and video recordings are all really good for those learners. Reading and writing learners will learn best when they have the written words, they take notes, they reread notes, they read text, and they like lists. I seriously, I take my notes here, and then I'll open a OneNote, and then I'll type them back in. I'm pretty solid on this learning style myself. Then we have our kinesthetic learners. They learn best through experience and practice. They are hands-on whenever possible. When they can't be literally hands-on, they want practical examples. So none of those hypotheticals, show me a picture of your dog things. Show me something about CRM so I can really understand and see myself in that. So any questions on any of those? Okay. Now we're going to take a minute and talk about us as the trainer, right? So there's something funky that happens. When you are training, you will default training in the most comfortable learning style for you because that's how you learn. And you assume, well, oh, everyone else is going to learn everything this way. Let me just teach it the way that I would want to learn it, which is cool, but you're probably missing some other people. So I like learning hands-on. I tend to deliver my CRM Power Platform training in a very hands-on manner. However, not everybody prefers that style, and that's important. So again, as the trainer, as the person delivering the training to your users, you really have to differentiate how you train. I have to differentiate how I train. Some people love PowerPoint slides. Some people learn best through the lecture experience. Some people want to read words on a slide. It's a challenge, but a fun one for a trainer to offer materials that reach all learners, not just ourselves. So that kind of changed everything for me personally when, again, this shouldn't have been so eye-opening, but it was. I was training in the way that I liked to receive my information. And I see this a lot in, I won't name names, but you've probably seen people at some of our industry shows that will get up and speak and they will not have a single word on their PowerPoint slide. You might be some of them. And they pride themselves on this. Like, I only have a photo on my PowerPoint and there are no words. You won't read anything on my PowerPoint, which is cool. They're visual learners, but they're kind of forgetting all of the people that really need those words. So I overdo it on my PowerPoint slides. I put more in my PowerPoint slides than I think I would for myself for the other people. Kylie hates PowerPoints. Yeah, I know. It's okay. Okay, awesome. Got the whole learning style thing. I'm ready to rock and roll right now. How can I train my users in Dynamics 365 and Power Platform? All these awesome ways. So this is not a comprehensive list, obviously. I took some training materials that, oh, that's funny. No, sorry, that wasn't me on that PowerPoint slide. I guess I did look like the stock photo lady. Maybe she could be the one who plays me in a movie, Kylie, from your earlier question. All right, so this is a really cool slide, and I took all of the training materials that I would typically create for a customer and thought about what bucket they kind of fall under. So understanding what we do about these different learning styles, where do they fall, and who can I reach with all these different things? And if you have other like training materials that you create, please put them in the chat or let us know what they are, and we can like add it to this and make a really comprehensive list. So one thing you might notice right off the bat is that live training is at the top of all of these. It's because live training reaches all of these learning styles. And I think we all know training in person is the most efficient and effective way to deliver technical content, like how to use a Power App or how to build a Canvas app, how to write a flow, how to use Dynamics 365. But sadly, that has become not a reality in a lot of instances. So we want to make sure that we have more than just live training, when maybe that would have been our primary mode of training. So let's look at the visual one first in the blue box. We've got graphs, diagrams, flowcharts, demos, and webinars. They're all things that you can do to help train your users. When we look at the Aural Learners, we've got lectures, discussion groups, webinars, videos, and podcasts. Then we're going to look at the reading and writing, PowerPoint, love my PowerPoint, quick reference guides, job aids, labs, handouts. I mean, some people still love those giant books of manuals, and that would be a reading and writing learner, right? Like I want my CRM manual right here next to my desk at any given moment. So all of those types of materials would be really good for reading and writing learners. And finally, your kinesthetic learners, like 68% of us, demos, one-on-ones, small groups, coaching, labs, case studies. So lots of ways you can reach different types of learners and differentiate all of the training materials that you're creating. Now, some of you are really going to like this. This is the exact same information redesigned to appeal to all of you visual learners out there. Me, I like my list. I like my bullet points and my 4 separate sections. Some of you are going to hate that slide, and you're going to like this slide better. So that was just for a bit of fun, because we're having fun here today talking about learning styles, but that's the same information. Oh, I thought like, wow, this is a great session. Let's just stop here and teach everybody everything. But then I'd be ignoring the elephant in the world. How in the heck do you adapt VARK in a COVID world? This was interesting to think about. I won't say fun. I mean, it's a fun challenge for me to take a concept like learning styles and try to adapt it in different ways in our specific industries. And in COVID, right? So we've gone through the learning styles. We've talked about all of these training methodologies to reach all of our users, to reach the different types of learners, but we can't ignore this post-COVID, almost entirely virtual world that's starting to get back to normal, but we're still largely virtual. So some of our learners are struggling. Some of us are struggling. I'm struggling. I'm feeling a little burnt out with everything. I want my in-person stuff back, and people are having a hard time with the learning options that are out there right now. So let's dive in, and we're going to talk just for a couple minutes about some of the things that we should consider for our different types of learners when we're going to deliver all of our training virtually, because that is a big shift, right? So I started with the tough ones, which I think are the aural and the kinesthetic learners. So adapting to virtual learning is particularly important for people who respond best to the aural and kinesthetic methodologies. They can be significantly impacted by the lack of the face-to-face and the in-person demo learning with online training. So what can we do? Well, you can keep your training varied, interesting, and relevant, which, you know, that's always what you're trying to do anyway, even before COVID. But even more so, that's even more important now with virtual learning fatigue creeping in everywhere. with conferences all moving to virtual formats, I mean, I'm glad they're starting to come back, but there's just so much. So what can you do? You need to make your training for Dynamics 365 or a Power App or whatever you're working on has to stand out more than ever. Otherwise, it's just going to become yet another virtual learning event and just get swept up in that. So I've gone on a bit of an aside, but let's go back to our oral and kinesthetic learners. And I came up with a couple things you can think about doing to try to make it a little easier for them. So in place of live demos, you can work on video libraries. I've found that video libraries are most efficient and effective when they are small chunks of information in short videos and organized in a way that makes sense, whether that's by table, by use case. That's up to you. You know your users, but like 2 to 3 minute videos at the most, if you can. That said, my YouTube videos are way longer than that, but that's what you should do if you're making training for end users. Live webinars could replace face-to-face training. And I don't mean the ones that we record and edit and put out there, like live, like this, right? Like just go for it. Have a conversation. Try to make it as interactive as you want. Teams meetings with trainers, that could replace live Q&A. I'm trying to do as much live as I can because it's really hard for these types of learners, especially the kinesthetic learners. This one, some of you don't like to do. I know this now. Turn on your webcams. It encourages engagement virtually, even if it makes us feel a little bit uncomfortable. You don't have to look at yourself. Use real-time polling to help with participation. So you saw that I had a couple of those here. The Slido is a free app that you can pop into your PowerPoint. So the way I did it today is I have a little widget in my PowerPoint and it just pulled all the questions on there. It's so easy. I've also used it directly in Teams. We use them for our user group meetings and it's really fun. So it's free if you use 3 polls within your slide deck, or you can buy a monetary version. But I think those are cool to help promote engagement in something like this. So now that we've gone with the tough ones, let's move on to the ones that aren't so bad, which is reading and writing and visual learners. So they would be less likely to be affected by the online learning shift. And the only thing I could think to bring up again is just to include both words and graphics in your presentations. And they make a big deal on the VARK site that visual learners are more photos, graphs, flowcharts. They're not PowerPoint. So that might be a visual thing, but that's like a reading and writing thing. So just stuff to keep in mind. And it's 6:36. We definitely got to my bonus materials. I had a lot of fun thinking about this. Sorry, Kylie, there's no way this is taking an hour. We're kind of nearing the end. But our bonus materials. Okay. What if we apply VARK to how we design our solutions, how we design our Power Apps? How can we take this knowledge and make our systems easier for different learners? Isn't that exciting? I'm excited. So we're starting off with the best one. I like that, right? So not all of these are good, okay? I really struggled with some, but visual learners, this is a good one. Beautiful dashboards, lots of graphs, system charts, throw a Bing map on that form, apply that calendar control to your activity table, toggles versus yes, no checkboxes. I love PCF controls. And then any other PCF control is going to visualize your data. Like this is a nice visualization for visual learners. Aural learners. These guys and gals are laughing at me because I've got nothing, absolutely nothing. I can't think of a single way to reach aural learners. If you have any, let me know. And they can stop pointing at me and stop laughing at me because they make me a little uncomfortable. Let's move on, though, to our reading and writing learners. So something important to think about here is kind of a balance between the visualization, the graphs, the charts that we talked about for our visual learners. We should really balance that with lists of data for our reading and writing learners. So instead of just having all pretty graphs, a nice balance is a good idea. I don't think I made the best graph on the bottom right, but it gives you an idea, right? So list of subgrids on your form, The sales accelerator, which is in the top right-hand corner, man, that's nice visualization if you're a reading and writing learner. It's just spectacular. And OneNote integration. So that's something you can do to help them out. And finally, our kinesthetic learners. The only thing I could really think of to help from a design aspect is to take advantage of custom help, which I have in your system settings here on the screenshot, but put your how-to video library up there. I thought that could be a neat way that you could help use the technology available in the Dynamics and Power Platform to reach your kinesthetic learners. And that's all I've got. I have no more slides. What questions do you have? What do you think about this? Was this fun to think about? Are you like, man, I just wasted 40 minutes learning about learning? Ooh. What do you think? I like you all coming on video again. Nice banana phone.
Of course we don't feel like that, Heidi. This was very interesting. And I'm trying to figure out why Nick is on a banana.
No, it's just my phone.
So it's an actual phone. Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back.
Jamie's got you covered in the chat.
Back to the one slide before this. Heidi, you go back. You went through one very quickly.
Oh yeah. What do you want to see? I was coming back to this.
Go one forward. I think go forward again or forward. This one here will be good. Okay. Thank you. What do you find most people in IT are falling in the category of?
Oh, I have no idea because I haven't actually had like users take this test. Today was the first time I ever had anyone like take this and let me know what you are. So that's a good question. I don't even know what to guess because everybody's so unique. I don't think it's like everyone in IT is this learning style. Everyone in marketing is this learning style. I really think it's unique. Well, how many of you are in IT? I guess we're predominantly kinesthetic.
I think we're all in IT.
All in IT.
Yeah.
Then I think 67% of IT professionals are kinesthetic learners.
Obviously, this data set is exactly the right size to know.
I'm going public with this. Yeah, the six
We'll publish
people
our
that
white
fill
paper
this
tomorrow.
out.
Research says.
Right?
I kind of think it would be
A
interesting
focus
if we
group.
had taken this test, pre virtual life and then taking it again now, if people would get the same results or if we've kind of adapted to do things differently now.
Mhm.
I don't know.
That's a
question.
really interesting question. Yeah. And I have certainly adapted how I train, like using this Slido thing or trying to put little things in here that I never did before COVID. Are you guys feeling like that virtual conference drain? Everyone's feeling that, right? It's hard to combat that, right? Because everything is being delivered in the same way. But if you have to train your users in how to use the system, gosh, you don't want to get swept up in like just another webinar thing. It's really difficult. I don't have any answers, but
I think the biggest problem is people try to multitask. They think that they can tune into a webinar and do their job at the same time, and you just can't. And if you're doing actual training, you really can't. Like, you're actually supposed to be learning how to do something.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is, a lot of people think, well, they'll record it and I can watch it later. Nobody goes back.
Nobody watches it.
Yeah, it's like, unless you can find that video when you're looking for the answer. Like, if you have metadata set up or you've written a great description of the video that actually makes it pop up in search results when the person wants to find it. But oftentimes these webinars and even what we're doing here today, it's too long. People don't want to sit through all that. They want the short video with the answer to their one question.
Yeah, I disagree with that. Actually, it's been kind of nice to be able to, like recorded Teams videos and being able to watch them back on like 1.5 or 2x speed. It's actually nice. Like, I want to be there. I want to be part of the conversation, but at the same time, it is kind of nice that we have the ability to go back and, especially like the team I work with is all over the world. And like, if they're doing a meeting at 4 a.m., I'm not up. Like, and it's I don't know. It's been kind of nice to be able to go back and watch things, after the fact and do them at 2x speed and kind of get the high points and not have to necessarily sit through all the ums and ers and stuff like that. So, but yeah.
No, it's a good
You
point. I hadn't
said
thought about that.
right after that. That was cute.
I did.
The problem with watching things on fast speed is then when I stop watching it, then I go to like have a regular conversation and I'm like, talk faster. Why are you talking so slow?
Kylie, you never speak quickly.
I know. It's because I'm watching all these videos in 2 times speed. I thought that was normal. Thought this is how I was supposed to talk.
That was
I talk quickly when I get
good
excited.
presentation, Heidi, by the way. Like, was I think it kind of made me recognize why it is that I don't like tune into like sessions that are mostly PowerPoint. Like, I need to have my hands in things, and it seems like the majority of the people here are the same way. But that was kind of cool to get that insight.
Awesome.
Hey,
I had a great time talking about this. Again, thank you. I was super excited when I put this in for DynamicsCon and then super bummed that it didn't get voted. But thanks for giving me the opportunity to dive in. I've never talked about this stuff. I've talked about VARK in the context of like a 15 tips kind of thing where I got to talk about it for 3 or 4 minutes. But this was really cool to really dive in and think about it. So thank you.